Hey everyone, welcome back to Divine Dose Delight, where I give you divine messages in little doses to give you delight. And today's video is a part of our series that I have on this channel. This is the volume 4 of it. It's called Morning Devotion. And the thing with Morning Devotion is just to give you upliftment, quick, encouraging upliftment to lift you up and make you keep going. So today's video, as in the title, is about doubt and how you can win. And the thing is with doubt, you can only doubt in God when you start to believe and do the things that He has called you to do, because now it's outside of your abilities and now it's in God's hand. I'm gonna give you an example of just in general. One way that someone can doubt God is when they have been given a idea to do something that God is calling them to do. It's to start a nonprofit. Again, you're gonna start to doubt. You're not gonna, if you take it and you look at it like from your perspective and your view to start the nonprofit, you're gonna think it's not in the reach. It's not in the limit, because why am I doing a nonprofit? I'm a student, I'm in school, I have a job, like I'm good where I'm at, like why do I need to start a nonprofit? Like you have nothing to do with the nonprofit, but it's what God has rested in your spirit to start a nonprofit. And let's say then you're like, okay, after thinking about this, you just start to like research, you start to have ideas about, okay, maybe a nonprofit. Let me look up a nonprofit. And then in your heart, as you haven't done nothing yet, but as you're researching about nonprofits and how they start, or like what's the things that you need to start, or just how to maintain a nonprofit, how to get together a nonprofit, which areas of what kind of nonprofit, you start to build. There's a little doubt in your heart that starts to build up because of the nonprofit. You weren't doubting about you being a student. You weren't doubting about the job you just went to in the morning and now you're doing the night shift job. Like you weren't doubting how you're gonna get to transportation from the job to school. Like you weren't doubting any of that. But you started to doubt when you just started to research about nonprofit. And when you start doubting in what the Lord has given you to do, it's a good point. It's good in that moment. You know why? Because you start to realize like, oh, it's not me that's doing it, it's God. So the doubting is kind of, it brings to you more of like a perspective. It's when you start to doubt in that, it's where a perspective must change. Your perspective must change. You start to see it from a point of, because all you're doing is researching. You're not even doing anything about nonprofit because you know you don't have the funds to do it. But all you just start researching. That's also where you start to doubt too, because you're doing the bare minimum. You're just researching about nonprofit, which is a good place to start. But that's all you limited to. You're not doing anything more. You're not doing anything less. You're just researching right now, looking it up, which is good to do, which is research. But you're not gonna take any action because you're like, not doing it. Like I have a lot to juggle right now. That's where doubt comes. And when you start to doubt about a specific thing, especially when it's a big thing that God has rested in your heart, that's when your perspective must change. Because trust me, when you start to doubt, you're only doubting like is God going to make it? Because you're thinking about yourself. You're thinking about, is God really going to come through? And you have to think about it because like God will come through, but can you come through? You can't come through. So you're using your own perspective on God's perspective and how He views you. So that's when doubt comes. And again, when you start to doubt about something, that's when a shift of your mindset must happen. There must be a shift of, you know what? God gave me this idea to do this. I'm going to just do the little that I can. I'm going to do my research. I'm going to take my notes. I'm going to look up. I'm going to start asking questions. And I'm going to just align myself with this. This is what God wants me to do. I'm going to just put myself in a position to receive more opportunities about this, to get more help on it. I'm not going to limit. I'm not going to not have faith over this. God is the one that gave me an idea. And don't you think that God will give me the resources and opportunities and the tools to do this idea? That's exactly how it works. As you align, as you start to shift your perspective from, this is too big, like can God handle it? There's bigger things in the world. There's bigger things in my life actually that God can work on. Like why does God want me to start a nonprofit? It starts there. That's when you have to start be like, okay, you know what? This is an area that I gotta let God lead in and I have to follow Him. And that's how doubt starts to flee. And when you start to shift your perspective from am I capable of doing it to God, can God do it? Like God's gonna do it. It's not a decrease of doubt but it's a little bit of increase of doubt. Is he actually going to come through? Like it's like from phase one of doubting, because like nonprofit seems like a lot, like all this research I'm doing, like it's a lot of funds, like a lot of things go into it, from financial to like maybe insurance to maybe like products to maybe to building. Like I doubt like that's gonna, like, I don't know, like, is it God gonna come through actually? Like, does God know how much it takes? That's phase one of doubting. Phase two is when you start that middle transition, is when your perspective changes from, let me not put myself in this, God's going to do it. So I'm changing my perspective from minimal doing things to expanding the things I'm doing. Meaning, I'm not going to leave myself only researching about how to maintain it. I'm going to ask questions, watch YouTube videos like, how does this work? Maybe go to nonprofits and ask them, how did you start? Or how did this nonprofit start? Then you start to like grow in that phase of expanding your steps. So phase two of doubt is like, am I doing too much? Like, is this too much? Maybe God wants me to do little. Like, maybe I need to stop like going to ask the nonprofits for help. Like, let me just settle. Let me just stay in my research. So it's like you were like, okay, I'm gonna start doing my research. I'm gonna go ask questions. To maybe I'm asking too much questions. Maybe I'm asking not the right questions, and you start to doubt again. Like, is this actually for me? Like, is God actually calling me? Because nothing is working out right now, and I'm having a hard time trying to figure this out. Like, da 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 da. That's phase two of doubt. And another transition happens when you're like, you know what? Let me just see what the word of the Lord says. Let me just expand. Let me grow my trust in God. And when you have trust in God, you have a relationship with God. And that transition, again, is when you start to build your trust on God, and you start to see from his point of view. You start to see that he's given me this because he loves me, and he see that there's so much potential in me to come out, to do greatness. So that second transition in between, am I doing too much, to this is going to work out, is that transitioning of reading and focusing on how to grow intimacy with the Lord and how to get close to the face of the Lord. Like, how can I go places that God only takes those who are intimate with him? How can I have so much confidence in God? Because this idea he's giving me is going to require faith. It's going to require trust. It's going to require obedience. It's going to require sacrifice. So I need to lock in, and I need to focus on what he is saying and what he's talking about. And this is exactly where this part three comes, the third phase of God's going to do it. And then when you're in that phase of God's going to do it, you have little to no doubt, because again, that transitioning of, let me just focus on the word of the Lord, because this next season is going to require faith. I'm going to buy things with faith. I'm going to walk in faith. I'm going to bring things into manifestation. I'm going to call onto things as though they were. So that's what this next season of your life is going to require. And Ecclesiastes 3:11 CEV says, God makes everything happen at the right time, yet none of us can ever fully understand all he has done. And he puts questions in our minds about the past and the future. We fully don't know what God is doing in that season of that phase three of this nonprofit you want to start, but you have faith that he's going to do it. He's going to do it. I'm not going to minimize my faith. I'm not going to limit my faith. I'm going to expand my faith. I'm going to grow. I'm going to see what locations of the nation that I'm at is a good place to start a nonprofit. Let's say you live in Georgia and you're like, how are nonprofits doing in Texas? How are nonprofits doing in Washington, D.C., and Seattle? Like you start to expand your faith, because maybe God doesn't want me to start the nonprofit here. Maybe he wants me to start it somewhere else. Like, let me look, like, where can we do this nonprofit? Like, that's how you're going to grow. And that's the phases. Phase one, it's like, can God really do it? Phase two, am I asking too much questions? Phase three is like, you start to have little to no doubts, because you are focused on the Lord. You're focused on him. You take delight in him. Your joy is in the Lord. And the two transitions in between, transition from 1 to 2, is that first question is like that perspective shift, that mindset change of, it's not my ability, it's God. And when it becomes God's, when you start to trust God even more, and you start to, okay, God's gonna do it. Let me grow. Let me see how I can expand. That's when doubt starts to increase as well, because you see how impossible it is in your reach to do it. because you don't have the right resources, you don't have the right opportunities. So you start to doubt, like, can I actually do it? And then you're like, am I asking too much questions? Am I actually, like, God's gonna actually do this to me? Like, is he actually gonna do it with me? Like, I'm so, like, am I doing too much? I should stop. I'm not the right person for this. But what keeps you on that God's gonna do it phase, the third phase, like, God's got it. God's got me. He knows that he'll never let me lack. God knows all my needs and what I need and what I don't need. God knows. That phase was going to get you from, maybe it's not for me. Maybe I should just quit. Maybe I should just stop. Let me just focus on other things. I'm juggling too much. What's going to keep you in that push to help you win is shifting your perspective is one. Two is getting and building your trust in the Lord and building a relationship with him where all you lean on is him. All who you look to comfort you is him. That is how you build that trust. And then you start to not doubt because you're like, God's going to do it. Like, I just have this full understanding and this full confirmation in my spirit that he's going to do it. Because he won't let me lack. And then even when doubt tried to come, like, you can't do that. You see that this is how much money it starts. You don't have that. Then you're like, no, I can do it because it's not for me to pay for. I'm going to pay for it with faith, and God's got it. There's a video I seen. It was a lady talking at a ceremony, and she was like, have the faith. Let God pay the bill. I don't know what it was, but I think that's what she said. She was like, basically what she's saying, she's like, allow God to pay the bill. Like, buy it with faith, or get it with faith, and then send God the bill. Get what you want with your faith, and then send God the bill. Let God pay for it. God's got you covered. Just go and shop. Go and see. Go and taste and see the goodness of the Lord. And let God pay the bill. Send God the bill. Send God the bill. Give him and cast it onto him. It costs 10 times what I make, God. I'm getting anxious over this, but I cast that to you, Lord. I'm not gonna even think about that anymore. I give that to you. When I'm starting to have doubt from my environment, people are telling me that it's too impossible, that I'm doing too much. I cast that onto you, God. I let you carry that. We're not talking about salvation. We're talking about just like in general, like with your faith, like have the shop, get what you want, and God's got the bill. God's got it covered. He's gonna come and pay for what you have. Like, he's gonna come there and save and provide what you need. Let him provide it. It's not your job to provide it. It's let God provide it, because God knows people that you don't know. God knows opportunities that you don't know. God knows things that we don't know. And then your prayer begins to change from being anxious about who's going to help you to praying, God, I pray, may you send me divine connectors. May you send me divine helpers in this area. And may you also send me helpers in my education, helpers in my environment to help me sustain and to help me do what I'm doing right now, so I can focus on the purpose and the plan you have set in front of me in the assignment. Like, God's going to do it for you. God's got you. Like, don't even think about providing for yourself. Like, God's got it. That's why God gave it to you. God was like, I'll provide for you. Just make the idea come to life, and then give me the bill. Give me the bill, and I got the bill. I'll pay for it. Matter of fact, it's already paid for, because God knows the beginning from the end, Alpha and the Omega. Like, God already knows what's happening, so it's already covered. God just needs you to bring it to manifestation. God needs you just to start it, attract it, bring it, like, align yourself. The things of this world are waiting for you, for that idea to manifest. There are certain things that are on standstill until you get started at nonprofit, until you get started with whatever is in your heart that God has given you the idea to do. It's waiting for you. Those opportunities, those people that are going to help you do that, they're waiting for you. You don't got to reach out to nobody right now. Get familiar. Expose yourself to what God is wanting you to do. Start praying for it. Start doing your research. Start asking questions. You don't got to reach out and be like, let me book a flight to Los Angeles to see how nonprofit are doing. Let me book a flight to Arizona. To see. No, you don't have to do that right now. Just get exposed to it. And when it comes time that you got to book flights to go fly and see, like, which ask different organization that you see in different states, then God's going to bring those people, or God's going to bring those opportunities. God's going to bring the funds to provide for you to fly out, to explore, whatever it is. God's going to provide for you in that area. You don't got to make that jump of, oh my, how am I going to pay for that plane ticket? Or how am I going to pay for that document? Like, how am I going to pay for that passport? How am I going to pay for that? You don't got to do none of that right now. All you got to do is just expose yourself by praying, to getting familiar with the physical things of the things that God has given you to do. Like, get exposed to it. How do you, with the nonprofit, how do we start a nonprofit? What's a nonprofit? What nonprofits are doing good in this world right now in this area, you know? So that's getting familiar with it. And then when you get familiar with it, you're going to start to grow in that. And then it's going to come a time where there's an opportunity to fly out, for example, and the money is there. The funds are there. And you're like, wow, Faith, how did you start this nonprofit? How did you start that project? How did you graduate? Faith. I did it by faith. There was a hunger that was built in me for the thing that God has given me to do, and I used my faith to get it. I put my abilities aside, and I stopped doubting. You start to see God as yourself, and then you start to see your abilities in God's abilities, and then you start to doubt if God chose the right person to do the job. God did not choose the wrong person. He chose the right person, and let God be God. There was a quote I seen somewhere, and it was like, you're so pretty that sometimes you gotta look at situations and be like, thank you, but no, or next, no. And then I was like, sometimes you gotta look at situations and be like, my God is too big for this. My God is too big for this. And that's what the quote was like. You're so pretty. You're so pretty. Like, sometimes you gotta look at situations that don't bring you value and be like, I'm too big for this. Next. Sometimes, you gotta say like, my God is too big for this. This doubting. My God can do it. I need to stop doubting. I gotta focus. I gotta shift my perspective, especially for those of us who put our abilities in God and be like, I don't think God can do it because all you can see is what you did in the past. But you don't know what God did in other people's lives or what God's going to do in the future. But you don't have that opportunity to see that. But all you do is just, oh, God can't do it because he's never done it. He's never done something big like that in my life. And it's like, no. There's so much more to God that he did for you back then, he can do to you again and even bigger. So you got to put your abilities aside and be like, you know what? God's going to do it. And then when that other doubt comes, when the more doubt comes of, did God choose the right person? Am I the right person for this? Is this the right time? Like, am I in the right position? Like, maybe not me, maybe next person, like, da-da-da-da-da. That's when, especially when you get to that point of your doubting of the thing that God has given you, getting that point of like, is this actually going to work out? Is this for me? That's the moment that something is going to break through. That's when you get, because not a lot of times you get to that point of, did God choose the right person? Like, am I good for this? In that moment, you start asking questions like that. That's exactly why God chose you, because you are good for this. You are the right person for this. He will make it happen in his perfect time. You just have to expose yourself and get comfortable with it. It's time to win in this specific weapon of transitioning your perspective from putting your abilities aside to letting God do what he has to do is what's going to shift your perspective to not doubt. You're only doubting because you can't do it. That's why you're doubting. And you think that because you can't do it, God can't do it. It's not like that. That's specifically why God's going to do it, because you can't do it. And you didn't come up with the idea. God gave you the idea. So the fact that God brought the idea to you, God got the idea, God gave it to you, and there's like a little gap. God's going to provide for the idea. What's the gap in between? You have to make it come to life. So like, God can provide because God brought the idea to you, the blank. God provides for the idea. But in order for God to provide for the idea, that blank in between needs to be filled. And what is that? It's you. Make it come to life. So there's something for God to provide for. So as you continue to walk in what God has called you to walk in, trust me, it's going to work out. Actually, don't trust me. Trust God. It's going to work out for your good. All things work out for your good. And I learned that if you're a person that thinks like that, like everything works out for your good, even if you're late, even if you're not on time, even if you do a bad job but you try, like even if you put effort and it didn't succeed, even if you try, it's gonna work because everything works out for your good. So don't give up on that. Use the doubt to your advantage. That's a secret weapon. It's kind of doubt. Doubt is a secret weapon, honestly, because you won't change your perspective if you never doubted. So use doubt as a weapon. Use it as a weapon to shift Your perspective. Use doubt. Doubt is kind of powerful actually, because if you don't doubt, how will you make it? The fact that you're doubting just shows that you can do it. If you don't doubt, there won't be a perspective change. So as you doubt, be like, okay, maybe I'm doubting because I can't do it. God can. Let me take it from me to God. Let God. I'm gonna give God the ability to do it. Use doubt. When doubt comes, tell yourself, it's not in my ability. I'm gonna let God do it. I'm gonna do my best. I'm gonna continue trying to make this happen in real life. And if it doesn't work out, it doesn't work out. If it works out, it works out. It's because you're just trying your best. Right now, you're doing your best to just allow the idea that God has given you to come to life. That's today's video. Doubt. Use it as a weapon. That's how it's going to help you win. Doubt is going to help you win and accomplish the things that God has given you to accomplish and to build that relationship with God. Use the transitions from your focus to God's focus to the second transition is let me build a relationship with God. Maybe this is just showing me that because I'm lacking trust in God. Maybe this is showing me like I'm doubting God and I'm not in a good positioning with God. I'm not trusting Him as much. I'm having doubt more than faith. I'm having fear more than faith. Like, what can I do? So maybe let me change my perspective right now. Let me get closer. Let me build that relationship. Like, why can I not trust God? What am I trusting in more than God? Like, is it people? Is it opportunities? Is it like, what am I trusting in more than God? You know, that's bringing fulfillment. Like, focus on God and focus on the things that He has for you. And don't run away from the place that God has for you. So again, this is the Morning Devotion series where I give you devotion, I give you upliftment, to just give you encouragement, a quick one to give you an encouragement, to uplift you, to help you focus on where God wants you to go and how to use the different things that is built inside of you to go and help you forth on your journey on this walk with Christ. Right? So again, thank you guys again for watching this video. My name is Bolovina. This channel is called Divine Dose Delight, where I give you divine messages in little doses to give you delight. Thank you again for watching this video. I encourage you guys to go ahead and watch other videos on my channel. And I want to say thank you again for tuning into this video. Don't let this video be your last video on this channel. I recommend you go watch my other series, my other 3 videos on this series, and I'll see you in my other YouTube videos. Until next time. I'll see you in those videos. All right. See you there.